Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're Khan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at Rebel Galaxy Outlaw for the PC. This title was sent to me by Double Damage Games so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. If my voice sounds a little bit different, that is because I've been live streaming maybe a little bit more than I should in the past couple of days, and it doesn't show any signs that I'm going to be stopping anytime soon, so it is what it is. So I apologize for my voice, but anyway, let's get started. This particular title is one of those games that I've been really excited about. I've been following the development of this game for quite some time because I am a big fan of the first game that they worked on, which was called just Rebel Galaxy. For those of you that never played that game, that is a space sandbox game. You can do space combat, you can do space trading, you can do mining, you have factions and stuff like that. And on top of all of the usual sandbox elements that you tend to have in a game like that, you also had a narrative, which I always found extremely interesting because this is a game that was developed by two people, which was very, very impressive. And on top of all of these things that I just talked about, it also has one of the best soundtracks ever for a video game. Not only it is extremely appropriate, but it's just a fantastic soundtrack. As a matter of fact, I still listen to that soundtrack all the time, pretty much. So that has always been something that kind of fascinated me. The combat in their previous game was very much kind of like naval combat in Assassin's Creed. If you guys ever experienced that, I think that is a good description of what the combat was like back then. But this one is going to actually go into proper first-person cockpit or even third-person if you want to, full three-dimensional combat, and it's really, really good, at least in my opinion, depending on your level of expectation. Because, you know, if you're coming out of something like Elite Dangerous, this is a lot simpler when it comes to the combat, and it is a lot more arcadey. And it also has a lot more assists, making it a lot better for newcomers to this particular genre, because, you know, they'll help you with the aiming, they'll help you with tracking down your enemies and all that stuff. But having said that, all of these assists that you have in Rebel Galaxy Outlaw are completely and utterly optional. Now, in the footage that you guys are watching, the only assist that I'm making use of is a little bit of aim assist, which, to best describe this to anyone that is familiar with Elite Dangerous, it kind of makes your weapons work kind of like gimbaled weapons. So it gives you a little bit of leeway as to where you have to aim in the enemies. I am using a HOTAS. I'm using the same HOTAS that I used when I used to play Elite Dangerous. And for those of you that don't know what a HOTAS is, it is very much a joystick and throttle control that you can use to, you know, play these kinds of games. But that is completely optional. As a matter of fact, the developers actually advise people to play with a gamepad. This game was designed from the beginning to be playable with a gamepad. And I'll be completely honest, I haven't tried it out yet because for the sake of immersion, I usually just play with my HOTAS because I have way more fun that way. But anyway, let's get into it. So this is an arcadey space sim game. You have all of the same things that you would expect from a space sandbox game. So you got combat, trading, mining. You can be a pirate if you want to. As a matter of fact, you can work with, depending on, you know, the actions that you take in the game, you can actually earn favor with pirate factions and stuff like that, and you will actually be able to dock into their space stations and, you know, stuff like that that we've come to expect from these games. On top of it, there's also dynamic events. So as you are going out through space, sometimes you might encounter distress beacons, or you might be attacked by ships that are coming at you, or you might find traders that are being attacked, or maybe sometimes even local law enforcement for that specific system. You may find them under attack, and if you help them out, they might reward you, they might give you money, they might give you commodities that you can trade for, or you might also earn faction with the specific ship that you are fighting for. And on top of all the usual sandbox trappings that you have on a game like this, there's also a main narrative. And that main narrative, at least so far, because this is not a full-on review, this is my initial impressions of the game. I think I have about, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours into it. All of the main narrative that I've played so far is completely voice acted. Not only that, the interactions that you have out in space, there's also voice acting in those interactions. Like sometimes an enemy will come up behind you, will start shooting you, and they'll be like, aha, I'm gonna kill you, or some variation of that. Usually they actually do get creative with variations. Like I remember some alien coming up behind me, shooting the crap out of my ship, and then going like, you're going to make a pretty little orange explosion as you go away. It's funny. All of that stuff is really funny. I think the humor in the game is really, really good. And not only enemies speak to you, but the game actually gives you a chance to speak back. So there's actually like a diplomacy system in here, and sometimes you might be able to negotiate your way out of hairy situations. Like a bunch of enemies come at you, and you're like, oh crap, I'm completely overwhelmed and I'm going to get completely and utterly destroyed. You might be able to just like, hey, I'll drop my cargo, and maybe they'll let you get away. Or you can just say, hey, can we solve this any other way? And sometimes they'll just let you leave. Or you can actually use it to taunt them. So like say you're attacking them, you actually have the upper hand. You can use the communication system to tell, hey, you're gonna die. And sometimes you can see the arms of your character. If you are inside the cockpit view, that is, you can see the arms of your character actually flipping off the enemies or something like that. There's also reactions from your character whenever your ship is getting shot up, which contributes a lot for immersion personally. One of the things that I really like is, for instance, sometimes ships will come up and they will completely burst through your shields, and they will hit your bulkheads, and like your character will be really frustrated. Like you'll see sparks coming out of the dashboard, and your character will just like punch the ship. It's really cool. It just makes it feel a lot more alive. Now, having said that, I know that one of the criticisms that a lot of you guys are going to have as you are looking at my screen are like, oh my god, that cockpit takes up like more than half the screen. I believe that this is by design. This is so that as you upgrade your ships into better models, and also depending on the ships that you fly, because like the ship that I'm flying here is not actually a combat ship. This is very much a multi-purpose ship, which does have combat capabilities. It's got 3 hard points in front. It's got like a turret in the back. But it is a ship that is more designed to be able to haul cargo early in the game. And I wanted that because I do like hauling cargo. I like doing space trucking, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to have a big cargo hold. So I went with this particular ship. So do keep that in mind. So depending on the type of ship that you have, the cockpit will net you more or less visibility. And since mine is a trading ship, the visibility is going to be limited. But again, that is intended so that, when you get a better upgrade, a better ship, it's not going to be as obtrusive, and it's going to feel like a bigger upgrade. Some players are going to be into that. Some players are not going to be into that. There's also a third-person mode if you'd rather play in third person. Personally, I really like the cockpit. I usually play with cockpit mode. So that's just the way that I tend to do things because, I'm playing with the HOTAS and it's much more immersive. And not to mention, I also find it easier to aim when I'm in cockpit mode. For some reason, I struggle a little bit aiming in third person. But, it is what it is. Either way, since we're talking about the appearance of the cockpit and the visuals and all that, in terms of visual fidelity, this game is not going to blow you away. I'm just going to say that outright. But it does look really good. Okay? It's not going to blow your mind, but it looks good. Sometimes it even may look a little bit blurry because it's going for this, it's going for a very specific art style. It's going for old tech sci-fi. I don't remember, low tech sci-fi, lo-fi. I don't remember what the actual term is, but it is a term that I've heard said before. But it is going for that, basically, like, it's going for that future vibe where we still have like old CRT monitors and stuff like that in the future. So that's the kind of vibe that they're trying to go for. And I think that the art style looks really good. I like the explosions. I like the dashboards of the ships. And you can also do a lot of customization in your ship. As I was editing the video, I noticed that I forgot to talk about an interesting feature that the game has, which is this application that they've developed that allows you to paint your ship. Now, when I say paint your ship, I'm not talking about something basic. I'm talking about the developer basically wrote his version of Photoshop and put it inside the game. Now, I believe that this feature is probably only going to be available on the PC because I'm not sure how this would work on consoles, but this is an extremely powerful tool that gives you a lot of control as to what you can do to paint your ship. It is insane to the point where you can go and you can get files from your computer, like images that you can get off the internet or images that you've made yourself. You can take a picture of yourself and basically spray paint a picture of yourself onto your ship. I'm not exaggerating. You can literally do this, and it is completely mind-blowing. You know, specifically in a time where a lot of developers are like, oh yeah, dude, let's get them on the skins and do the loot box and get like, oh, here's a red skin, here's a blue skin. These guys were like, no, you know what? Here's a friggin' Photoshop-like tool and make whatever skin you want for your ship. You want to paint it red? Paint it red. You want to write your name on top of your ship? Go right ahead. You want to get an image and spray paint it onto your ship? You can do that too. Dude, the amount of tools that you have in this application is mind-blowing for something like this, and it completely blew me away when I saw it the first time on a live stream, and then when I actually used it, I was like, wow, it really is that simple. It's so impressive. Like, you guys got to check that out. But overall, I think in terms of visuals, the game is pretty good. One of the things that we have to remind ourselves of, by the way, while we were talking about this is a game that's being developed by 5 people, and I believe that the price that they're asking for it is going to be like $30 or something like that. So that, in my opinion, that is already kind of insane. The fact that this is just developed by 5 people blows me completely away. Just because of the amount of content that is there, the voice acting, the story, all of that stuff on top of the story and the voice acting, all of this stuff. There's also mini games that you have in the game itself. Like, I'm sure anyone who's been following Rebel Galaxy Outlaw will be aware of the fact that you can play 8-ball, like full featured 8-ball in this game, you know? To the point where you can even make the ball spin. And I'm just like, dude, why? It's a space sim game. There's also like arcade games that you can play. There's slot machines, and there's a lot more stuff. There's dice. There's a bunch of stuff that you can play in the game besides the actual game itself, which I thought was pretty good. Now, in terms of audio, which is usually what I talk about when after I talk about visuals, I think the game sounds pretty good. I really like the noise when you start hitting the hull of other ships, because it means, oh, we've gone through the shield, and now you can actually hear like your ammunition hitting the other ship's hull, which is pretty cool. And also from a visual standpoint, if you guys will let me go back, I know that I'm a little bit all over the place. I've just finished my live stream, so I apologize for that. But another really cool little visual detail that I've been noticing is that when you are shooting a ship's shields, it's fine. You can see the impact on the other ship, all that stuff. But when you're actually shooting the hull, you can see pieces of the ship flying off, which I think is really cool. And also, if other ships shoot your ship, you can see the carbon scoring all over your ship in the specific places that you were shot, which is a nice little detail. But yeah, I was going through audio. Audio sounds great, but again, we have a fantastic soundtrack. I believe that there's over 24 hours of music in the game, and the game allows you to experience the soundtrack in different ways, which is you have like these different radios in the game that you can actually tune into. Kind of like, I believe the first time that I saw something like this was in GTA. They have the same thing. They also did voice recordings for pretending like there's a DJ actually serving up the music for you, which I think is really cool. You can also turn the radio off, and it gives you dynamic music, which is going to change depending on the situation. But again, it is just a fantastic soundtrack. And the really cool thing, this is a special note for content creators, and it's amazing, again, to think that this is a game made by 5 people, and to think that most AAA studios never even consider these small little details, which is the fact that if you are a content creator like me, someone who does live streams on YouTube or live streams on Twitch or whatever, they have a streamer-friendly mode for the licensed music. They actually went after the licensing of most of the music in the game, and all of the licenses that they've secured, they basically say you can monetize this music, no problem whatsoever. And if you get claims, they even give you like a message that you can put on. But basically, they went to the trouble of allowing content creators to have the music play out without having any issues with copyright. And basically, they just tune out the music that is licensed and that you can't monetize, because there's also some of that. But the fact that they did that little detail is amazing. Another little detail that they did that, again, it's just these little details. The devil is in the details, is the fact that they have a button there right on the first time that you boot up the game that allows you to just put DualShock 4 faceplate buttons in case you're using a DualShock 4. So many games in Windows, whenever you turn on the game, and if you happen to be using a DualShock 4, you still get the Xbox prompts. This game just like, oh, just click this and you'll get DualShock 4 prompts. And just, how come more people don't do this? It just blows me away. But anyway, those 2 little details, just something that I really, really like. Anyway, let's actually talk about the game itself. So like I said, space combat game. You can shoot ships, you can blow them out of the sky, you can run missions for different factions. There are a bunch of different factions in the game. You can be a mercenary and take down different types of quests. You can do escort quests. You can do, defeat a pirate lord quest. You can follow the main narrative if you want to, because you don't necessarily have to follow the main narrative. You can just engage in the sandbox elements if that's what you want to do. The game gives you complete freedom for whatever it is you feel like doing. It's like, oh, I want to do a mission for instance, the Merchants Guild, because you can just try to make a more peaceful living, even though a lot of times you will have to engage in combat, but you can try to make your objectives more about actually doing space trading, space trucking, figuring out different routes for commodities that you want to sell and stuff like that to make more credits, to further upgrade your ship. And then you can be like, oh, I just feel like interacting with the main narrative again, and you can follow the main narrative. And I believe that this time around, there's actually going to be choices which might have different outcomes depending on the stuff that you do. At least they've alluded to it, even though I haven't really experienced it yet. But again, the main narrative is a lot of fun, but sometimes, very much like the original Rebel Galaxy, the main narrative kind of forces you into upgrading your ship a little bit more, which, it is necessary for you to eventually upgrade your ship. You're not going to be in a clunker the whole damn time, right? But you might reach a point if everything that you want is just engage in the story of the game, you will reach certain points where it's like, no, you need to go and do some missions or something and upgrade your ship. I remember that was one of the things that I struggled with a bit in Rebel Galaxy, because I thought that I did a lot of side stuff, and then eventually I would still go into the main mission. It would still be too hard, and I'd be like, oh, guess I got to go upgrade some more. But on this one, I haven't experienced that as much, but I have experienced it a little bit. I had to upgrade my guns and stuff to be able to do one of the very early missions, which surprised me a little bit, but still great fun. I really like the flying. The flying feels good. In this one, you are not going to be piloting freighters at all. Everything is more about the smaller fighters so that you can get the full three-dimensional movement and all of that stuff. There's also a buddy system as you play through the game, and this is not multiplayer, it's single player, keep that in mind, but there is a buddy system that you will unlock certain characters as you play through the game, and then you will be able to ask them for help, which gives you a cooldown. Whenever you ask for someone's help, it gives them a 10-minute cooldown or whatever after they help you. But basically another ship comes in and helps you out during combat or something like that. And it's just so much fun. I mean, again, I realize that for some of you, this might be a bit of a surprise that I like space sim games, because usually you just see me playing Monster Hunter World or Final Fantasy or Dark Souls and stuff like that, right? But I have a really soft spot. I have a soft spot in my heart for games like this, and especially indie ones like this one. I don't know. I've just gotten really into it, and I'm gonna keep playing it for sure. And one of the things that I'm more excited about this game, I have to be honest, is for when it comes out on the Switch, because it's gonna be the only game of its kind on the Switch, and I've been wanting a game like this on the Switch to have and be able to play on the go. It's just one of those games that you can kind of you can either go follow the main narrative if you want to, or you can just zone out and just oh, I'm just going to do some space trucking, going to get some credits, going to upgrade my ship, going to take down a couple of pirates, something like that. Or maybe become a pirate yourself. You can become a pirate and you can go threaten other ships and be like, give me money or die, which is also cool. Just the degrees of freedom that you have to do all of this stuff in the game. It's just, I mean, you guys know, those of you who've been around for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of Elite Dangerous. This is a little bit more simple, but still really, really fun. Now, one of the things that I know a lot of people are going to be upset about is the fact that this is an Epic Games exclusive game. But do keep in mind, the game is also going to be coming out on PlayStation 4 as well as on Nintendo Switch. And then a year from now, whatever the game comes out, I believe the 13th of August, a year after that, it's going to come out onto other storefronts like Good Old Games, Steam, and all that stuff. I completely understand people that want to boycott Epic Games, and I don't want to I don't want to talk about the whole Epic Games situation, because that to me is a different situation. I know, they secured exclusivity for this game and all this stuff, but you got to keep something in mind. It's 5 developers. 5 developers working on this game, and this is a fantastic game. you do what you got to do. If you want to wait, you wait. If you don't like it, if you want to boycott it on principle, go right ahead. It's whatever. I personally really like it, and if you like games like this, I can recommend this no problem whatsoever. I think the game is amazing. It's a lot of fun. And again, it's got a fantastic friggin' soundtrack. It blows me away every time. Really, really good. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Do remember, this is not a full-on review. This is my initial impressions. I believe I mentioned that at some point during the video. If you guys do enjoy this video, hit it up with a like. If you are new here, consider subscribing, hitting the bell notification icon so that you are actually notified. I cannot, again, emphasize how much it helps me in the channel if you guys do hit the like button. If you don't like the video, though, hit the dislike button because feedback is also extremely important. And again, comments, all that stuff in the comment section down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.
Oh, yeah, baby.